Are you trying to cope with the death of your child? The most horrible day of my life, I was sitting in a wheelchair in front of 2 coffins. My 2 children were in those coffins. As I stood there and listened to the minister talking, I felt myself in such an unreal place, in so much pain and anguish, that I thought I would just combust right there. I was in extraordinary physical pain from the car accident that had killed them, but that meant nothing compared to the unbelievable emotional pain that I was experiencing. If you've lost your child or children, I know you know what I mean. 1 minute before the accident, before the other car hit us, I had been a reasonably happy mother of 2 little kids. And a second later, I was a crippled, angry, wounded, anguished person. I didn't really even know what the word anguish was until that day when my children died. In the years since, I've recovered physically enough to walk without pain, which was unexpected. I had another child. My daughter, born with the same father, is now 22 years old. I run a successful company, and I do work like this, helping people recover from life's many difficulties, primarily grief, primarily the loss of children. I learned something that I want to share with you. It's just one story from my life, but it is the moment that changed my life, and I hope that by sharing it with you, perhaps it will inspire you also to try to get through this, because I'm living proof that it's possible. And I know lots of parents who've lost children who've gone on to live lives that are not the same, and that certainly don't make up for the loss, because there will never be anything that does, but that are meaningful and that contain joy and happiness and peace. It is possible, I promise. So, shortly after the accident, a number of people in our church told my husband and I that we really needed to go to a support group for bereaved parents. I wasn't allowed to sit up because of the injuries to my pelvis, my leg, my back, my ribs, my insides, all these other things. I had extraordinary amounts of surgery and spent a long time in intensive care. So I couldn't go for several months after the children died. I couldn't go because I couldn't sit. And eventually, my husband put me in my wheelchair when the doctor said it was okay, and we went to the hospital, and there was a big room, maybe 60 chairs arranged in this large circle. And they moved a chair, and my husband wheeled me into place and sat down next to me. And the director, her name was Marge, she explained the rules. There are 2 boxes of tissues on the floor. Use them if you'd like. I couldn't get out of my chair to grab one if I wanted. But she said, grab a tissue, and if you need one, don't interrupt the person who's speaking. Don't ask any questions, and just let it go. And so she said, it's our policy that I always start. And Marge sat there, and she told the story of her son, little Billy, who was adopted. And when he was 9 years old, he put a bag of natural gas over his head intentionally and committed suicide. What a horrible story. The people next to Marge, going clockwise, the nanny left the pool gate open and the child drowned. The teenager committed suicide. This child had hydroencephalitis. Somebody backed over the child's tricycle. Around and around the circle we went. It became our turn. My husband and I told the story of the car that hit us at 65 kilometers per hour and killed both my children. Felt very cathartic to tell the story in front of parents who got it. I wondered when we would start talking about how to get better. We completed the circle. My husband decided not to go back. I decided to go back. He wheeled me in and he left. I sat there in the circle, and Marge again told the story of how little Billy put the bag of natural gas over his head and intentionally committed suicide. The nanny left the pool gate open, hydroencephalitis, teen suicide, drug overdose, around and around. I told my story. Afterward, there was this little coffee party with cookies and stuff, and I'm drinking my coffee, and Marge comes up and she says to me, so, thank you for coming, and I'd like to get to know you. And we talked for a few minutes. Turns out she has 3 grown daughters who may or may not have children she doesn't even know, although they live in the area. They don't speak to her at all. And she has a husband who divorced her many years ago. I just can't believe that such a loving, giving woman who runs this thing would be suffering so much by having been abandoned by the family that should love her. That really broke my heart for her. My husband picked me up, and next time I decided to go again, because maybe this time we would talk about how to get better, because that's all I could think about. I knew I couldn't sustain the incredible minutes after minutes after minutes of anguish with never a break, now for months. So we get there, and we sit in the circle, and the 2 boxes of tissues, and all the parents are lined up, and I know some of their names now, and I know their stories, and we always start with Marge, and she's sitting there, and she's crying. She's very distraught this time, more than I've ever seen her before, and my heart really goes out to her, and I realize what an idiot I must be. Maybe little Billy just died, or maybe it's the anniversary of his death, or maybe it's his birthday, or some other significant day, because Marge is practically incoherent. And little Billy put the bag of natural gas, and she's, boom. If I didn't know the story, I wouldn't have been able to understand her. When you're in a wheelchair, you can get away with pretty much anything. So while she was doing this, I said, Marge, I called across the circle, it's against the rules. She looked at me, and I said, Marge, excuse me, but how long ago did little Billy die? And she said, 26 years ago. And she lost it, just started sobbing incoherently. And in that moment, I saw my future if I didn't make a decision to figure out a way to get over the deaths of my children in a healthy way so that I could have a meaningful life again. And I wheeled myself out of there as fast as I could, and I sat shaking in the parking lot waiting for my husband to get me. And I realized I would never want to be that person in 26 years whose overwhelming identity as a grieving mother had disassociated her from all the other meaningful relationships in her life. Marge saved my life, because I saw what I didn't want. I saw the ghost of Christmas future, and I didn't want that to be the rest of my life. If that's what you want, I beg you, please look for answers on how to get through it. They're out there. I provide some of them. There are other excellent people who have material that will help you get out of the grief. I promise it's possible. Please believe me. Please. Your life depends on it. My name is Wendy Keller, and with all my heart, I am so sorry for your loss. And I hope that you take this material seriously. You listen to the story of Marge and little Billy, and you realize the same could be true for you. You can get better. You can survive this. I promise. Just try. Just start today to find a solution. Thank you for watching. All the best to you. I'm so sorry for your loss.